friends. Thank you for joining me today. We have Dr. Bir Khalsa with us, who is assistant professor in the Harvard School of Medicine. But it can seem a little intimidating if it's a world you don't know. Exactly. To try to figure out how would someone who's interested in beginning to explore this make a choice and figure out, because there's different first of all, there's different types of yoga, right?
Correct.
One of the types I enjoyed your mentioning today was the difference between mindful yoga and, what did you call it, butt busting yoga or something like that?
Butt slimming yoga. Yoga has become very popular, and anything that becomes popular becomes diversified. So there are now very sort of limited forms of yoga practice. There's people teaching in gyms who teach nothing but postures. There's no relaxation component, there's no breathing, there's no meditation. It's all about just the physical aspects. That may have some benefit because they are improving flexibility and so on, but it's very limited in terms of the whole palette of what traditional yoga practices can offer. But in picking a style of yoga, someone has to sort of bear in mind what their goals are, what their interests are, what their personality is like, what they get along with, and factor that into the choice of what they take. And it's got to be an informed decision. You have to shop, basically.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's buyer beware. And fortunately, we have the internet today. So now you can shop on the internet, just like you used to have to drive around the city. Now you can shop on the internet. So you find a description of the yoga styles and what they do and what are the components, and some of them are very aggressive and people might not be attracted to that, but some might. Mm-hmm. And some are very mild and you might be more attracted to that, but some might not. So you make those choices. Then once you decided on sort of what the styles you like, then you would say, okay, who's going to teach it? And different teachers have different personality styles. Two different teachers from the same style of yoga can have a very different experience for the practitioners. Mm-hmm. So now you have to go and you have to sample. Mm-hmm. You have to go around and take a few classes. Absolutely. Everyone that teaches yoga allows beginners to come in and take a free class, or they may require you to pay for it, but oftentimes it's a free class, or you sign up for a few classes. And it's always nice to take a few classes with one yoga teacher to really get a sense of what that experience is like.
Because the first time it's maybe
because one class the classes can be very different. Mm-hmm. And you may happen to walk into a very aerobic class, whereas traditionally that style is not that aerobic. But so it's nice to take a few classes with that teacher and then move on to another studio, take a few classes with another. After about 3 or 4, you're going to say, well, this one here was just right, Mm-hmm. It's Goldilocks.
Yeah,
This porridge was too hot. This porridge was too cold. This one was just right. And you have to make a conscious choice. But once you make that choice, it really pays off because you've got something that really resonates with you. And that's important because if you just walk into the first yoga studio and it's not resonating with you, and then you do 5 classes, then you walk away and say, boy, that was an experience I never want to do again. And for the rest of your life, it's like, oh yeah, yoga, I tried yoga. Mm. No, you tried that one teacher of that one style, but you didn't really try yoga in the sense of really knowing what its experience can be.
So that's a good thing to keep in mind too. If you have tried it, don't assume it's all the same. Or if a friend of yours does it, and you hear their description, you think, ooh, I wouldn't like that. That doesn't mean there wouldn't be a different form that would be right for you.
It's exactly right. And the variety of forms, fortunately now, is huge. So it really does take some shopping, but most people will find a style that they resonate with. And that may change over time.
Is it important to have some kind of certification or something from an instructor? Or so other than the type, right. Is that something, or is that not? How big a deal is that?
I think that's worthy of consideration. There is now an organization called the Yoga Alliance, which has had applications from a number of yoga schools who do teacher training of their up-and-coming teachers. And they've approved those teachers as that style of yoga and that school of yoga as a reputable, from their criteria, as a reputable training institution. So the people that would go through a 200-hour teacher training program would then be sort of certified through the Yoga Alliance. So if someone is a yoga teacher who says, I'm certified through Yoga Alliance, at least you know they've gone through somewhat of a basic fundamental regimen. Because there are people who go off and they take a weekend yoga course and they come back and say, now I'm a yoga teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Well, who knows what that person's going to be
Right.
teaching. So that is helpful. Having said that, there may be people who are excellent yoga teachers who have just said, I'm not interested in going through the administration process of Yoga Alliance, so I'm just teaching on my own. But that does have some virtue.
Okay.
And for people who are starting out, going with a Yoga Alliance certified teacher is not a bad idea, but it's not the be-all and end-all. Also.
So if they're not certified, that shouldn't necessarily
It
dissuade
won't
you.
necessarily rule them out. But
Are
then,
there
of course,
questions
you can
could ask. When
sure
you, talk
you
to
could do
them?
your
What would
you could do
ask?
your own research. You could say, well, how long have you been teaching, and how long have you been practicing, and who did you study with, and what kind of populations have you taught? Are you experienced in working with the elderly or with children? I mean, if you're an elderly person, that's a good question to ask. Have you taught yoga to the elderly? Because someone who is Yoga Alliance certified but has never taught to the elderly may not have experience working with that special population. And there are considerations for special populations that can be very important for the experience that a novice practitioner is going to have.
Or someone who's very overweight.
Or
If
overweight,
you've been working
or
with lean, athletic
exactly,
people.
exactly. And so teaching yoga to obese people is going to be different than teaching yoga to the regular population. So if the yoga teacher has had some specific experience, that's going to work in your favor as well.
It's pretty exciting, the potential.
It is.
Great. Well, thank you so much for this time today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
It's wonderful.
My pleasure.
And thank you for joining us.